This will be an overview of the Quickdraw weaving program's grid view and graphic entry of a pattern. And I find that one of the most powerful tools. With the normal warp weft editor, I've got to manipulate the warp, the tie-up, and or the weft in order to make a change in the pattern. Now I can get to the grid by either looking at the graph paper icon here or go to the view and graphic entry of a pattern. Now I actually have a blank sheet of paper and I can make any change on it I want to. For example, if I import the draft, it's recomputed the threading sequence, and if I make it change, it immediately makes the change in the threading, the tie-up, and the tread length, so I can actually immediately see what I'm doing. The export draft would send that back over to the warp weft editor as a threading, tread length, and tie-up sequence, so I can manipulate that. Now I also have an ability of, for example, if I find an image I want in a clip art someplace, if I copy the image, I come back over, if I actually paste that image, if I scroll out enough, I can now see that image is there. I can then edit that, do block substitution on that, manipulate that however I want to. That will work on bitmaps, full color images. Color and Weave will actually take a color threading diagram and regenerate the threading, treadling, and tie-up sequences. Now the other thing I can also do, let me zoom into a corner here, and I've got a straight line tool. I can actually create a weaving structure. Say I just want a little 1-3 twill. Once I select that, I can copy that. I can now actually paste that. I can grab the paste tool, and as I can fill as much of that as I want to, and as I move the mouse up, down, left, or right, it actually reverses the patterns so that I can basically create a symmetric image of that. And the other thing I can also do, I've got that image selected. I want to do a 3-1 twill, do something different, and turn on the symmetry tools and zoom out to the middle of the page, in a little bit there. Grab a freehand tool. I can now actually automate symmetry so I can create whatever interesting pattern I want to. If I decide I like that pattern, I can now take that. I could substitute the 1-3-3-1 twills I had. I could do the substitution. It's now given me that pattern. I could export that as a draft back out, work with that. If I do the undo, that pattern's probably going to be a little large. Well, let me just take the middle of it. If I want to, I can now go also, within a profile view, I can go to threading. And if I ask for thumbnails, it's going to show me what that block pattern would look like in each one of the threading substitutions. So I can now convert that straight into a threading diagram from there. And if I want a reference, for example, I can also, for example, give me a circle. It just shows me if I want to trace something. I can also do reference lines vertically, horizontally, if I want reference lines, so I've got drawing utilities. And then I'll later walk through the rest of the control tools and some of the other features I just glossed over there. Thank you. Okay, this will be a description of the Quickdraw version 5.6's ability to change the aspect ratio of the boxes on the grid. I had a request from the shaft shifting folks to give them some tools I'll talk about, but the general capability to change the grid is common to anything. Say, for example, I was doing a summer and winter design for warp threads by 8 weft threads, so it gives me a little bit of a skewed vertical block. So I've added the ratio boxes down here. And as I'm over the boxes, you'll notice on the scroll line up here where it's got room to put it, I can click directly in the ratio. You know, for example, if I'm, say at about 125, so that's 140%, I can hit on the vertical line and it will move that to about 5% steps along that. If I wanted to go to 125, I can up that a couple of clicks there. So I can now design with blocks that are not necessarily square. The vertical and horizontal grid lines still kind of do the same thing. But you'll notice when I do things like draw a circle, it's going to give me a true circle. But the box ratios are going to change. And if I want to go the other direction, the shaft shifting folks were saying they get all the way down to about 20%. You can set the center of the grid there, ask for a circular reference and do a right mouse click. So that's about 35%. So the boxes are very short and squat. Let me redraw that circle. And when I draw it, now I can actually trace that circle line fairly easily. And normally I would have used the grid lines, but you'll notice the grid lines are now kind of squat because of the aspect ratio. As I change the aspect ratio and zoom in, so you can control whatever you want, and then when you weave it, you can select the thread sizes that would get you back to what you're looking for. But that allows you to design with a variable thread size. That allows me to design in whatever aspect ratio I want to play with.